Hey Matt, how are you?
Hey Jamie, I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I was just for our listeners, we were just kind of chatting before and a real spoony moment for me. I actually spent the hour before recording this podcast crying. So because life is stressful, and so I just want to be real with you guys. Hopefully you can't tell on the podcast video. And yeah, so how's your day going?
Yeah, my day, I was actually dealing with social anxiety right before this. So
Wow.
I'm right there with you.
Welcome to life as a spoonie. As
Yeah, right.
yes. So I thought that'd be cool to just share with our listeners because it's
Right.
so real, and I wouldn't want anyone to think that I have my whole life put together because I don't. And there are days where I wake up and I just need to cry, and
Yeah.
I'll probably cry after we end this podcast.
Hey, it's good to let it out.
But it's okay. I'll hold it together, and we can have an awesome chat.
Awesome.
I've been so excited to get you on the podcast. We've been kind of going back and forth for a couple of months trying to figure out a time. One of the reasons I'm excited is because you and I have similar backgrounds. So grew up in the U.S., sort of in like the conservative sphere, Christianity
Right.
sphere. And what's interesting is there's a whole journey coming out of that and sort of discovering our own identity and all of that. But also you were part of the US Navy. You kind of dealt with all of your chronic illness within that system. And
Hmm.
so the topic of this podcast is really sort of like we want to talk about toxic masculinity. We want to talk
Hmm.
about kind of your experience in the Navy and then mindfulness and how that's helped you kind of overcome that.
Yeah,
Let's talk
definitely.
about like first your experience in the Navy when you're first getting your chronic illness and how, I mean, maybe even combining that with toxic masculinity
Yeah.
and how that
Oh
affected you.
gosh.
I mean, because
I
it's the military. So,
I have some really funny stories to go with that whenever it first started. So I was in the Navy and I was stationed in Japan and I was over there um, during the tsunami that happened in 2011. So my ship, we were first responders. We went up there and we were exposed to nuclear radiation.
oh, wow.
Yeah, we were like fully on exposed to nuclear radiation. Like the Japanese government did not let the U.S. Navy know that they were having a nuclear meltdown in the plant of the power plant that was hit by a tsunami. So we had to
Oh,
go to that. And then after that is when I started having a lot of health issues. My health issue that started, I started getting really bad bursitis, and it was in my hips really bad. And being in the Navy, I was telling people I'm having pains like in my hips. Some of them would be like, "Oh, why don't you just put your wallet in the other side of your back pocket?"
oh my gosh.
like that's gonna help me. And I'm sitting here. That was back in 2012, and I still have horrible hip pain.
Wow. Did other people on the ship experience health issues after that?
There are some. I have a friend. He's had numerous like fatty tissue growing around him, and then not on my ship. There's numerous people that have cancer. One
Wow.
girl said she had cancer was on my ship. I wasn't in too close of contact with her, but yeah, we were definitely exposed to some not good stuff up there.
Yeah, and so what did that look like then to, because obviously you experienced like a wide range of health issues following
Yeah,
that. You were still in the Navy. What did that look
right.
like to navigate that and to get that treatment, that awareness to,
It was yeah, it was hard. So whenever my health issues first started, I was going to the doctor. I was having like a mental health breakdown. They had to pull me off the ship. I was put on limited duty for my mental health because I mean we had just experienced this traumatic event, and at one point in time I was told I was going to be on the outside team to go outside of the ship. and clean the ship from nuclear radiation with chemical, biological, radio gear, not nuclear gear. So this was like a traumatic event for me. And the Navy didn't register any of this being a traumatic event for me. So I was on limited duty for a year and I was going doctor after doctor for my other health issues. And these doctors were basically talking about me behind my back. And then in my record, it says numerous times that I was a hypochondriac, is what they called me.
Wow. And they didn't tell you that.
They didn't tell me that. I actually,
They like diagnose you with something without even. Is this
they
are
did,
these Navy doctors or is this
these
outside of?
these are Navy doctors, yeah, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So rather than them being in the wrong because I had a lot of mental health issues, they just pawned it off on the mental health and said
Yeah.
it was mental health that was causing it.
I I'm trying to like figure out. I'm trying not to like get annoyed, but that's not even just in the Navy. That's so many doctors. If you say, "Oh, I'm experiencing mental health," or the easiest thing is to pawn things off on depression or anxiety because then they can just give you a pill and it's fixed. Like,
Yeah,
but and again, for those listening, neither of us are trying to sound overly negative about doctors or about. We're just really sharing our experiences. And obviously, your experience in the Navy was really frustrating. I
yeah,
had some pretty unfortunate experience with doctors, particularly in France, and that I've talked about before. So just please understand, we're not trying to be overly negative, but it's so important to raise awareness for this because, I mean, if you look at the Navy, for example, I have two brothers that were in the military, one of them in the Navy, one of them in the Marines. And I mean, you hear stories. It's this hyper masculine environment where, I mean, you can speak more to this than I can. It sounds like it's an environment where you can't be weak, you can't be vulnerable, you can't
no,
be honest about struggles, etc.
right. You pretty much gotta hide all that and like show like you're strong at all times. And then whenever I had my mental health issues and I was broken down to like the bottom of me at like my breaking point, then I had because I got kicked out of the Navy for
Yeah.
drugs because I was struggling with mental health issues. And when you're struggling with mental health and nothing else is helping you, you self medicate. And I was drinking, and then one thing led to another.
Well, it sounds like people were gaslighting you. Like you didn't even get
Yeah,
the help you needed because no one was helping you, even though you were
right.
trying to see the right people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and they were doing that. And it was sorry, my mind went blank.
No, I was just asking you about how you were navigating like the toxic masculinity or that environment with
Right,
your
right.
different health issues.
Yeah. And so with navigating it, like I was having doctors, they just didn't believe me. Whenever whenever it was my anxiety, but yet I was having physical elements as well. They started doing cardiology workups on me and stuff too. I mean, I had tons and tons of workups, but none of these doctors believe me. Like, I mean, I can feel when a doctor is not believing me, especially when you're talking to them and the questions they ask you and stuff like that. You can tell that they don't believe anything that you're saying to them. So I was dealing with the doctors not believing, my mental health, and everything on top of that. And it was just straight chaos for me.
Yeah, wow. And at any point in this process, because it sound because you were obviously exposed to radiation, did you
Mhm.
say that in your appointments and did they acknowledge that, or was that something that was kind of swept under the rug?
That was something that was swept under the rug. That
Yeah, wow.
we, to be in all honesty, I don't even remember signing it. But one of my friends that I was on the ship with, they came around while we were asleep on the ship and made us sign probably a waiver saying that we couldn't sue them or anything like that.
No way.
Yeah, and I have no recollection of it.
Have you seen that waiver that you signed?
I haven't seen it. No,
Hmm.
I
Okay.
have not. No,
Interesting.
but I do think it is pertaining to Operation Tomodachi and the whole nuclear event and stuff that we were at. Okay.
So, are you allowed to talk about it then?
I mean, I've never been told that I can't talk about it, and I signed something that I'm not aware of. So, as far as I know, I can talk about it. Eh,
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's really it's interesting because that idea of like being affected by radiation, I've even been gaslighted by people who don't necessarily acknowledge the effect that those types of things can have on someone's health because it doesn't affect everyone, for example. Like,
yeah.
I got some mold exposure a year and a half ago,
Hmm.
and or actually this time last year. And there was definitely a sense that when I was telling people, "Hey, look, like I've been exposed to mold. I need to move out. I need to um, protect myself because mold really is bad for your health." It felt there was the very I was a little bit of a sense of like, oh, maybe you're overreacting from the people around me, which was
Right.
challenging. And then sometimes you feel like, oh, maybe I'm the issue, maybe I am overreacting and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And you start second guessing yourself rather than being like, no, well, I know I'm feeling this. I'm not going I can definitely feel this. And I've tried to just now stick with knowing my body instincts and stuff. Like with the radiation, I've been going to physical therapy recently. My physical therapist has been working on the bursitis that was in my hips when the guy said I should switch my wallet. The physical therapist said she has never in her entire career seen anyone with hips like mine. And she said it
Wow.
has to be like an autoimmune response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And, I mean, that makes sense. And I think it's interesting because I think some people are, again, more prone to have those sort of conditions as well.
Yeah.
I think I definitely was one of those people that was more prone to getting
Oh yeah, me too.
chronic illness. Yeah, so it's like, and then going back to your point about mental health, is it's if it's like, for example, you've experienced trauma in your childhood or traumatic events,
Hmm.
something switches in your brain where your body kind of goes into fight or flight mode and is kind of in
Yeah.
this consistent state of fight or flight mode. And then if you're exposed to more trauma or something like radiation or mold or something, or in my case, a car accident,
Hmm.
the body can't cope. And there's this immune response. There's this flare up of sometimes random symptoms, and as a response to that.
Right.
And so then you go to doctors and you go to health professionals and you're saying, kind of listing off the things, and because of maybe the trauma that has then caused mental health issues, you're gaslighted
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, it's all in their head. Does that resonate with you at all?
Oh, it does for sure. I always feel like some doctors, if they catch any wind of like any type of mental health or anything like that, they they'll try to go straight for that. But the first medication that almost every single doctor tries to prescribe to me that I could probably go the rest of my life without hearing. And I'm not telling people not to take their medications, but SSRIs. SSRIs don't help me personally from my experience for pain. Every time I go into the doctor, they want to prescribe me to it.
Yeah.
And it it doesn't help. I mean, I know their theory behind it because with some of chronic illness, it I think like you were saying, it can happen from traumatic events, and I think it damages your limbic system in your body. So then that trauma, it it basically makes your body have like these chronic illnesses and stuff from different things.
Yeah, I mean, again, yes, total, and it's that balance between at least what I've experienced is, and I was actually having this conversation with someone about this yesterday, is because she was talking about trauma being the main factor of her having developed an autoimmune condition.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I want is to go around being like, "Oh, you have trauma and you have trauma," like, and then also I sometimes I get where the doctors are coming from when they go straight to the mental health component, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that when people ask me like, how did you experience breakthrough in chronic fatigue syndrome? And for me, it was when I started going to therapy and when I started dealing with negative core beliefs. And we'll talk a little bit about that later with mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
But often from my experience, doctors prescribe medication that's not necessarily getting to the root of the issue, when
Right.
really we need therapy, for example. We need to be dealing with
Yeah.
the trauma. So there's some validity to the sense, in the sense that like, if maybe we dealt with the underlying trauma, that could help with a lot of symptoms. The condition
Yeah.
is obviously still there. So it's this weird balance, I reckon.
It is. It is definitely. No, I agree with you on that. I've started doing therapy and it helps me as well, doing therapy and getting it out that way. I for years I couldn't talk to people. I'm better with therapy where a therapist works with me doing like cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff like that with me. And but
Yeah.
for me, I've never been able to really talk with people about my problems, so I struggle with that. And then for me, the medication for years, it just numbed all my problems.
Yeah.
It didn't deal with any of the thing inside of me. It numbed every single thing that I had.
Yeah, which is why and again, like you said, not advocating, like not saying people shouldn't take medication, because I've considered
Right.
it, definitely considered it, but I personally have a negative reaction to most medications.
Yeah.
So I haven't gone in on any sort of medication for my mental health or anxiety. I've done natural options and stuff, which has
Right.
helped. Um, so yeah, I think honestly, for anyone that is listening, if you, in my experience and from what I'm hearing from the general community, is therapy is honestly such a massive tool in the chronic illness journey. Going to see a
Mm-hmm.
therapist, going to deal with all of negative core beliefs and stuff.
Yeah.
Question for you: when you got out of the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
did you start seeing doctors that were outside of the Navy system, and did you
I
see
did.
better results from those doctors?
So I did started seeing doctors at first, and the first doctors that I started seeing, I was not having good results. I was having really bad results. They weren't believing me. I even remember going to because I was in so much pain and nothing was helping me. So I went to see a pain specialist that they sent me to. And the pain specialist, I could hear her walking from down the hallway, laughing about me, saying, like, basically just like, oh, he probably doesn't even have this. He's too young. I could hear everything that they said out in the hallway. So I never went back after that. But she gave me a shot into my hip and it just made it worse. But those doctors, they didn't believe me at all. And so I had to experience that for a while. I didn't experience any doctors that believed me until September of 2019 is
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
So you
and
went
I've
like
been dealing with it for years.
7 years.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
gave up on doctors for so long. I like I was in so much pain at one point in time, and I was just like, I'm done going to the doctors. And then my partner, she forced me to go back to doctors because I was in so much pain. She's like, you got to go see someone else, and she got me to go. Actually, the breaking point for me was finding a naturopath a naturopath helped me find mold and Lyme disease. And then I found a functional medicine doctor, which I highly recommend them as well. And they helped me find the root cause, which was chronic inflammatory response syndrome, which is the root cause of why Lyme disease and mold toxicity affect me so bad.
Yeah, wow. I'm so glad you kept going. And also funny about your partner because it's like typical role of the woman in a man's
Yeah.
life to be like, you need to keep going to like
Right.
I don't want to stereotype, so please don't take it the wrong way, but like
No.
it's like so classic. Like
It
to your partner,
definitely.
you need to be seeing a doctor. Like,
Right.
um yeah, well, it's interesting that you say that because very similar, again, very similar journeys. When I saw a naturopath, that's when I got diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and that's when I started getting validation for my health issues.
Nice. That's
And
awesome.
that's where I started seeing treatment. And then I saw a functional medicine nurse practitioner. I saw a functional
Mhm.
medicine nurse practitioner, and that's where I started getting results as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, again, to each their own. I very similar to naturopathy, functional medicine, therapy, all of that sort of things that has
Yeah.
helped me with my chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and sounds like it's helped you.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to circle really quickly back to what you're saying about doctors like being really invalidating.
Hmm.
Because I was watching this reel from this new girl that I started following on Instagram. I think it's like South Asian Spoonie or something like that. She's amazing. And she did this reel about
Okay.
how it's like when you're in a doctor's appointment, you at like if the doctor's not listening, you stop them and say, I want you to put in my chart that you haven't acknowledged my requests and haven't run
Oh,
any
wow.
tests.
Someone
And she's
someone
like,
told me something like that
and
before.
she said it works every time. And I was like, that's so brilliant, actually. Like, I
Yeah.
want you to put in my chart that you have not acknowledged what I've said and that you have not run any tests.
Yeah.
And it
Wow.
really it really gets them, I reckon.
Oh, for sure. That's definitely taking back your health right there.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously some like it might be a tool that someone might be able to use in
Yeah.
their journey. Also, hopefully, we can just find doctors that do validate us, though, so we don't have to say stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Because even when I don't go to the doctor that much anymore, because I'm kind of at the point where I can manage, and if I do see someone, it's usually a natural doctor. I'm going to see a
Mm.
homeopath in around a month. But I when I say I had chronic fatigue and I have chronic pain, if I'm sensing any sort of gaslighting, invalidation, I move on. I do not see
Yeah.
that doctor again. So, because I just don't have time for that. I'm like, I know I've been doing this for years, you know. So I'm really glad you found a naturopath that really validated. And have since then, have you seen a lot of improvement?
So right now, currently, so I'm not going to the functional medicine doctor who diagnosed my root cause because they're too expensive. They don't accept insurance.
Yep.
And and with COVID and everything, it has been a hard year. So I'm having to go the route that insurance is allowing me, which I have found some new doctors. And they're not naturopaths and stuff, but they are more understanding than like any of the other doctors that I've ever experienced. Like they're working with me, they listen to everything that I have to say. They don't like they and as well. I went in yesterday and I had to go see a physiatrist because I've been having a lot of back pain, and she broke down, like she showed me my x-ray and she broke everything down for me, showing me like my
Wow.
bones, which not many doctors do that. They'll just say
Yeah.
you have a good or a bad test. Like they don't they don't tell you much more than if it's good, they'll just tell you it's good. If it's bad, then they'll tell you what's wrong.
Yeah, well, and education is power, right? I found that when I was explained things like that, really enabled me to make more educated decisions about my health.
Yeah,
And so I
definitely.
guess one of the questions I'd like to just briefly touch on is
Hmm.
how has being a guy affected the way that you've navigated this? Do you feel comfortable talking about your health issues with other guys, for example? And because like it's especially I think in the America in the military
Hmm.
in that sort of environment, it's like we said earlier, it's dog eat dog.
It
It can be
is.
very toxic. So how have you navigated that and have you experienced a lot of that?
So I've definitely experienced it. Like, I mean, I've lost friends because of it who I think don't believe me. I remember one of my friends, I told him, I was like, yeah, I have. He's like, how have you been doing? I was like, oh, well, I got a chronic illness. He's like, man, you've always seemed healthy for all these years. I was like, well, yeah, looks can be deceiving. and, but yeah, so a lot of guys, I found it easier to talk with guys. I I like sharing everything that I have to share, like with on my page and stuff, because there aren't enough guys out there
Yeah.
talking about it. I mean, whenever I came in this community, I felt lost. I whenever I see another guy, I'm excited. I'm like, oh wow, there's another guy. But I know it can't be the case that we're the only few guys out here because I know it's affecting more people than that. It has to be. There's just guys we grow up with thinking we can't show our emotions. So when you start having if you start having physical pain and stuff, a guy will just hold on to it as long as he can until it like puts him down in the ground,
Yeah.
which is sad. We shouldn't be in a society like that. And we should be able to show and share our emotions with other people. For me, that's been very beneficial for me is finally being able to release my emotions because
Yeah.
it hurts to hold it on for so many years.
It physically hurts.
Yeah. Oh
Physically,
yeah.
literally.
I mean, I no kidding have chest pains because I think from trauma and stuff trapped in my chest for years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we could talk about that for hours, but I really want to focus a little bit more in this next segment around mindfulness and how mindfulness has helped you because
Okay.
that's really the ethos of your Instagram is
Right.
chronically mindful Matt, and it sounds like you've really found what works for you and what really enables you to live a better life in mindfulness. And so what does that mean and what does that look like for you?
Well, for me, it started out with meditation is how I first started into it. And anybody can start with it. I first started with an app. I used Headspace app. There's other apps that are out there. You can use like Calm. Um, and for me, at first starting, I'm not gonna lie, I think I only stuck with it for a week and then I quit because I was in so much
Wow.
pain at the time. And I started meditation due to pain because I was in so much pain. Like pain medicine wasn't helping me, nothing was helping me. I was in this super moldy house and didn't know it at the time. And so I found meditation and I started doing that. And then with meditation, it really helped me not be attached to my pain anymore. So I can feel it and I can experience everything, but I am no longer attached to that feeling, if you understand what I mean. And so with that,
Wow.
I do like with meditation, I do body scans. Body scans help me a lot because what it does is it makes you more focused in on whatever area you have pain, and becoming more aware of that makes it to where you can almost put that in the back. Like you're aware that pain's there, but you can put it back behind you so you're not solely focused on it. So
That's really interesting. So it's like I'm trying to wrap my head around that because I do the same thing, but I didn't realize that was what it was. So it's like saying, "Hi, pain, I see you, but
Yeah,
I'm going to just put you over here right
right.
now because I need to
Yeah,
focus." Is that kind of how it is? Like do you
yeah,
talk to your
yeah,
pain?
yeah. You can talk to your pain. There's actually there's if have you ever heard of Eckhart Tolle?
Oh,
He's a spiritual teacher, and his whole thing is about being in the moment of now. And with him, oh, my mind went blank. What were you talking about right before
I was
then?
asking about talking to pain.
Oh, right. He has this thing that is called, he calls it the pain body. And he says you can talk to your pain body. And he says your pain body is anxiety, is physical pain that you feel. It's so many things that they are what you are experiencing, but they are not you.
Yeah.
So, and once you can detach from that, it makes things a lot easier. And then one thing that has helped me even more than meditation, which, so I've been meditating for like 2 years now, and I started doing breath work. And there's a guy, his name is Wim Hof. And I use he has a whole Wim Hof method where he does the breath work. And then you also do, he does ice baths, but you can work up to it with cold showers and stuff. I usually just implement the breathing right now. I need to get back to the showers because I have noticed the showers do make a difference. Like it's
Cold
so
showers.
weird. Yeah, it's something to
Mm.
do with cold showers. It gives you that sense of you can get past anything if you can take this cold shower.
That's really interesting that you say that because I do cold water swimming in the winter here in Sydney in the ocean.
Oh wow.
And the water gets pretty low. It gets to about 14, 15 degrees Celsius, which I
Hmm.
don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
I'm not sure.
But probably like 50s in the 50s in
Okay,
Fahrenheit.
yeah.
It's pretty cold, but I do it, and there's honestly nothing like the feeling of going in for a cold water swim. And like it's cold, but when you get
Yeah.
out, it's like this euphoria
Oh
feeling.
yeah, I mean, I haven't done probably that cold. But I do the cold shower, and I feel energized afterwards after I do
Yeah.
it. It's such a cool feeling. But yeah, I do, but I mainly just do the breath work with it. And Wim Hof, I mean, I feel like it has built my confidence. Like it's made it to where I'm able to talk to people easier because I'm very introverted. So me talking to people is
Same.
yeah. I it's funny. I can have deep level conversations with people, but surface level conversations I'm not good at.
Well, I think I have that as well because it's like it's so hard to have those surface level conversations sometimes because like, yeah, how you going? How's life?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like just, dealing with childhood trauma and chronic pain. Like,
Right.
today had this memory. How was your day? Like, how do you have those conversations? And
Yeah,
then
it's kind of hard.
I mean, it's like, how do I? And then sometimes I'm in conversations where I'm like, how do I not bring up my health issues or my mental
Yeah.
health issues in this conversation?
Yeah, no, I fully feel you on that. My dad, he always wants to ask about my health, and I hate it because he thinks that he knows he wants to help me because he's got a nursing background, but he knows nothing about my condition. So
Yeah.
tries to jump up there, and he's always like, how are you doing? I hope your health's doing better." I want to be like, well, I mean, it is chronic. It doesn't just magically go away.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, there's so much there. So if people want to know more about kind of what your work around mindfulness personally and also the resources that you used. Can they go on your
Yeah.
Instagram profile? Is it all there?
Yeah, definitely. You can go on there. I have some of it on there. And I also have like some resources as far as books that help me as well, I think that I should
Yeah.
mention.
So can you
So
what recommendations do you have?
yeah, so for one of my books that got me into spirituality and stuff was it's called Be Here Now. It's by a guy named Ram Dass, and he was kind of a 60s spiritual innovator and stuff. And he that book really helped me out, as well as another one that I highly that one is kind of more psychedelic, so it might not be on everybody's level.
Yeah.
The next one though is called The Power of Now, and that one is so good. It will help people learn how to be, because here's so anxiety is just thinking about what's going to happen in the future is anxiety. And then depression is thinking about what happened in the past. So when you can
Wow.
be here fully in the present moment, you have nothing to worry about. That's where anxiety and depression come from those two
Wow.
places. So when you're fully present, you and that's what mindfulness teaches you. It teaches you how when you have a thought come to your mind, you're no longer attached to that thought. You can just let it go and not get caught up into it and spiral down with it. I still struggle with it sometimes, and I'm still working. That's why meditation and breath work, it is called a practice for a reason.
Yeah.
You had to practice it daily. And then I have one other book to mention too that helps me so much with my anxiety, as far as like making phone calls and stuff, because I get really anxious beforehand
Yeah.
and I can easily talk myself out of making a phone call. It's called The 5 Second Rule by a lady named Mel Robbins. And her 5 seconds, so it's to get you out of your, do you know the book?
I've
Yeah.
heard of the method. Yeah.
Oh, it works. You do 5 4 3 2 1, and it takes you out of your conscious, or no, it takes you out of your conscious mind and puts you up in your frontal lobe cortex, and it just makes you go.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really
it
good.
really helps with anxiety for sure, and being able to get past what is holding you back.
Wow, yeah, thanks for sharing. And we'll put all of those in the show notes and everything as well for those
Okay.
listening. So that if they want to read the books, get engaged, and also we'll
Yeah,
make sure and
definitely.
link your Instagram profile. It's Chronically Mindful Matt for those listening so that people can see kind of what you're doing as well. Because you do
Yeah,
share a lot
definitely.
about your journey, which I love, and you have some great like repostable quotes on your profile and all of that.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
awesome. I want to circle back. Usually we
Yeah.
do this segment in the beginning, but it's
Okay.
ending up at the end. What is your pet peeve?
My pet peeve. So, punctuality is a really big one with me, and that comes from the military.
Yeah.
Because in the military, if you're if you're on time, you're late. You have to be 5 minutes early to be on time.
Yep.
So that's like a military thing. That's one that stuck with me from there. And then people not believing me, because
Yeah.
I have a tendency, and I think I've just pretty much got fed up with it over the years. I write people off really easy if they don't believe me. I
Yeah.
don't have time for it anymore, and I just move on.
Yeah, I understand that. It's yeah, because it gets exhausting trying to be in an environment sometimes where you have to pretend like
Yeah,
you're not ill or someone doesn't believe you. Yeah, I totally
right.
understand that. And you have to conserve energy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And yeah, and then the tardiness, like I understand. I am late sometimes, not gonna lie. There I feel like there's a buffer. If you're like meeting up with someone, you get like a 15-minute buffer. And
Oh
then if it's
yeah,
beyond 15 minutes, you really need to be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I
right.
realize this is not, I don't know if you um I'm not usually early to things, that's for sure.
Right, right.
So I'll make sure next time when we chat on time.
Oh no, you were fine. I was the one showing up late.
um, well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It's been honestly so great to chat. We've been chatting for so long and I love
Yeah,
it.
thank you for
And
having
thanks
me.
for sharing everything. And honestly, I'm just so like I have a lot of admiration for your willingness to put yourself out there, talk about your experience cuz it sounds like there's a lot and it's it takes a lot of courage I think to really come out and talk about that when a lot of people have gaslighted you and a lot of people
Yeah.
have said, "Hey, this isn't real." Like so overcoming that to then creating this pretty big platform on Instagram where
Hmm.
you're being honest and transparent. I just want to acknowledge that level of courage and it's so needed and thank you so much for taking the time. I don't take it for granted personally because I know it's not easy, social anxiety, all the things, but yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation today.